joining us on Soul Tribe channel with myself, Nikki, and Tracy, and Daria.
Hello.
And Daria.
This is Misty.
Misty, say hi. Today we're going to interview Daria because we'd like to ask her about how she started her journey.
Well, I guess it's a kind of a long explanation. Well, it's not really long. Thank you. I don't want kisses right now.
Misty's happy about it already.
Okay, you want to talk? Interestingly enough, my mother read cards, and she used to give people readings at social gatherings and stuff. So it was always a fun thing, but I never really got it. And when I was a little bit older, she kind of taught me a little bit. My grandmother had done it, and she taught me, and I didn't really feel it. I thought it was a fun kind of party trick.
Like a game.
Yeah, it was a party
Yeah.
trick kind of thing, but I didn't really fully understand it. Flash forward several years later, and I started having some pretty intense dreams. Very intense dreams. And I'm like, well, what is that about? One of them was, I was married at the time, and one of them was about, we were driving on the highway. I was driving with my husband, and all of a sudden I felt like I had careened into the concrete. You know how that, and I just had this feeling of like fading away.
Oh, wow.
And it was really intense, and I didn't understand it. I just put it up to the side. I'll go forward a few months later. My husband starts having some strange symptoms. You know, he's having trouble with his vision, he's got lots of headaches, all of these things. And it turned out he had cancer. And it was pretty intense, and that dream just flashed in my brain. It just flashed really clearly in my brain. And when he did pass away, when he passed, I had this another intense dream. I was in a hotel room with my two children. They were babies at the time. One was, I don't think she was a year old. The other one was just 3. So we were in the hotel room, and he was outside of the hotel room, and we had a conversation, just like we were having a conversation right now. That's how clear it was. And all of a sudden I said, you have to come in. The babies are here. You have to help us take care of them. And he goes, no, you're going to be just fine. You know I have to go. And then in front of him, these 2 angels just led him off. And I woke up, and it was like, this is not a dream. This is so real to me. I got to find out more about this. I just have to find out what's going on. So I started investigating a little bit more, going to psychic fairs, researching. And what I was told is not really a dream. It was more of a visitation. What you're getting is the actual person, the spirit of the person. And because when we're in the dream state, we're so connected to spirit, it comes through loud and clear. Interestingly enough, when I'm awake here like this, I can't channel him. I can't. It only happens in a dream state. And I've been told it's because of the emotion.
Yes.
For me, other people are easy. If you sit down, not easy, but if you sit down in front of me, it's much more accessible if I don't have an emotional connection to somebody. If it's a family member, it's really tough because the emotion.
Yeah.
I ended up just learning more about it, meeting people, talking to people about it. And then I found a wonderful group, and they were offering mediumship. And that was it. I was just starting.
Yeah.
But it's not easy at first.
Yeah.
There's a lot of doubt that comes into your mind. Is this really happening?
Yeah.
Am I just making this up?
Yeah.
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 100%. I've been there.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about finding a group where you can practice in, right?
Absolutely.
And it just helps you build your confidence. And I've had a reading from you, so I know how accurate and in-depth your readings are.
Me too.
Which
Thank you.
I had a great reading with Daria. You actually brought me to tears, but
I appreciate
yeah, it was very, like, you totally nailed it, I remember.
And
yeah,
I've met a lot of amazing mediums, and they're all unique in their own way. But what I really loved about your reading is that you brought in, the proof. You brought through my grandfather, so you brought the proof of survival. And then on top of it, you showed me a little bit from the past that I could connect with. You showed me the present and how he channeled through to help me on my journey, because you know, as you're awakening, it's not an easy process to come into your alignment. So to have the support of mediums or energy work, whatever energy work that you connect with, it's so important. So it helped me to trust in my journey, because that's a huge part of it.
Huge. Trust is the big thing.
Your mind is everything, right?
Yeah.
And as an empath, we're good with our emotions,
100%.
but our minds, that's what we're strengthening.
Absolutely.
And your reading I was just amazed. It showed me where I was and where I was going, and I got there.
That's great.
And it was with that reading, bringing through my grandfather. So I'm so thankful for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're very welcome. It is
So protective. Right?
Yeah, she is. She doesn't like any voice. Yeah, I know. Mummy's fine. Okay.
Have you ever experienced synchronicities? Was that a part of your journey? Strange alignments or synchronicities. All of a sudden you're meeting a certain person, or maybe you've picked up a book and just
Absolutely.
beside the dream, because obviously that's a big one.
Absolutely. Yeah, just people have come into my life and all of a sudden they were, did you hear of this? Did you hear of that?
Yeah.
And there was a really, really great video somebody recommended. And then the next day somebody recommended the video again. I was like, well, then I need to take a look at it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously. And the universe has a way, if you don't get it the first time, they'll keep throwing it at you and at you and at you. And so, yeah, absolutely. And even people have mentioned somebody, and all of a sudden, there they are. And you get to meet them and whatnot. So, for sure.
Yeah.
My dad and I have always had that, where I'll just think of him, and all of a sudden, he's on the other end of the phone.
Wow.
So, we've always had that kind of connection.
Yeah.
But absolutely, when you are ready,
the
people and the materials just come.
Yeah.
They come to you.
And it's funny, like, was your life this magical before your awakening, or?
It's a very good question. I think sometimes I would say yes. I was always a very quiet person. I always liked to be alone, and I think part of that was energy was just too much for me.
Yeah.
So,
sensitivity. Yeah.
So very quiet. And I would say to my mom, I want to go home. She's like, you are home.
You're overwhelmed.
Like, you are
You're
home.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel
You
about
don't
going
know
to
how
a
to
mall?
deal with it.
Are you a mall person?
No.
Like, I can't go to the mall.
No, it's too much.
It's
and
too
even
much.
in a large, like I work in a classroom, even then sometimes the energy is too much and I just need to shut it all down.
Yeah.
Right? I need to turn the lights off. I need to just be in a quiet space. So absolutely. But I would get flashes of things. Now that I'm looking back at it, I would get flashes of things. But you have to learn how to open it up.
Right.
You have to learn to channel it. Because the biggest thing is fear.
It's the biggest thing. It's an illusion, isn't it? It's a
Nonsense.
lie.
It is. And once we get over the fear, because when I first started, hearing or seeing, I just said, I don't want to see spirit. I'm okay hearing, knowing, sensing. I'm okay with that. So we sort of have a deal.
Yeah.
And even though I've been told I will eventually see spirit, I don't see spirit like I see you sitting here.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, too, like, do you have a religious background even, or an
I
upbringing?
do. I absolutely do. And it totally contravenes with this.
Me, too. I went through it. I think you went through that.
It does.
I felt like that was a part of my fear. It blocked me.
Absolutely.
Because it taught us to not go into spirit.
Absolutely.
To be feared, actually.
Absolutely. But, once you sort of see it's not evil, it's actually been around forever.
Yeah.
We all have it. Why would we be given it from the universe if it was evil? It's what you do with it. It's like
Exactly.
anything else
It's
in
what
this
we
world.
do with it.
And that's the thing where you just brought that up. It's how we use the energy. Because there is people, voodoo and people
Absolutely.
working with bad energy. But when you understand the interconnectedness and how we're all one,
Absolutely.
you don't want to manipulate energy. You want to work with it for the highest good, because it's a chain link for everyone.
Absolutely.
Right?
And if I can't connect, I will tell you straight up,
Yeah.
you know what, I don't know what's happening here, but I can't connect.
Yeah.
And even my father, who thought I was off my rocker when I first said, this is what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Been there.
He thought I was completely, he's like, I'm part of a cult. I don't know what you're doing. Like, just not, it was interesting. He had somebody come from overseas, and he worked as an interpreter for me, which is the first time I've ever done a reading with an interpreter. He was an interpreter.
Okay. Yeah.
And after the reading, he's like, wow. And he called me several days later and he said, I can't believe how many things this lady's still telling me. You're reading, you knew things you couldn't possibly know. When can you do a reading for me?
So your dad finally accepted it.
And I said to him, I'm sorry, you're just too close, and our spirits are the same in terms of family. So
yeah.
It's hard to do, but I think he finally saw, oh, maybe there is something to this.
Yeah.
He's actually very intuitive himself and works in hypnosis.
Okay.
So he's very open to this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with your mom read cards, was she more open or?
She was.
Yeah.
Absolutely, she was. I think in her earlier life, she was. I think things happen as you go along. Sometimes that can block you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you either open the door or you get scared and you shut it.
Yes.
And sometimes when you're given gifts, it can be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And the emotion behind it can be overwhelming, and we shut the door a bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's, not without getting into too much detail, I think that's what happened to my mom, and she got blocked.
Mm-hmm.
But it was certainly there. She was certainly able to do it. My sister's able to do it. You have to trust enough that you're okay.
Yeah.
Because I can do a reading for somebody, and all of a sudden I get such immense emotion because I'm feeling what spirit is feeling. And so I can even feel physical symptoms.
Yeah.
So I have to ask spirit to step back a little bit so that I can give an accurate reading. And if you're not grounded yourself, that can be incredibly fear-invoking. There's a story my mom told of my grandmother who read cards, and she was on a bus trip in Europe, and she kept reading cards, and she kept getting the Ace of Spades, which is what we call the death card. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean death. It can mean transition, rebirth, but it was a death card.
It's funny, I want a tattoo like that.
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention it.
Transition.
I love transition. I love
absolutely. But she 3 months later, she found out the lady passed away to cancer.
Okay.
And that's it. She never read cards again. But again, transition.
Yeah.
It's a transition.
Yeah. Energy.
It's not to be feared.
You're just a different state energetically.
Well, I think, as being a medium and connecting with the other side, you realize that this isn't the end all be all.
No,
right?
For sure.
So it's just a process of evolution.
It takes the fear out of it, for sure. And especially when you go through something and you have somebody who has such a profound illness like that, it can be quite difficult. But I think when you have that sense of, you know what, I'm going home. This is just a transition. It's a little bit easier. Yeah. It's a little bit. You still miss the person. I still miss him immensely. It's been a long time since he's been gone. His daughters have grown up without him there. But interestingly enough, he's there. Like there are times where things will come and people will take pictures, and around my youngest daughter especially, and there's these little orbs of light.
Beautiful.
And it's like...
That gives me the chills.
I know right away.
Yeah.
I have another story. My girlfriend was holding my daughter. She was, 2 years old. And my husband was Jewish and Catholic. At a Christmas tree. He was like, so... He was...
Love has no boundaries.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It
That's
doesn't.
beautiful.
And so anyways, he loved Christmas. He wasn't into the religious aspect of it, but family, getting together, joining together. So my friend is holding my daughter. She's just 2 maybe. This is our first Christmas without him. And all of a sudden she looks up, and keep in mind, he died, she didn't know Daddy. She didn't know that word. She looks up just above the Christmas tree. Daddy? No. My friend nearly dropped her.
Oh, wow.
She nearly dropped her. She just said, yes, she did. It's part of the story now.
She's in the camera. Is this a good angle? The dog. Is this a good angle?
I'm ready for my close-up.
I know.
You're too
Look, she's totally looking into the camera.
She would. But my friend couldn't believe it. And I said, how can you doubt? It's right there. Yeah. She had no father figure. She didn't,
Wow.
And for her to just look up and say, Daddy. And that was the only word she said. And then the moment passed. So he's given me subtle signs over the years that for sure he's still around them. And me too.
Yeah. And I think too, it's such a support being in a group of people that are mediums and having that space, because, you know, if you ever do get, and I have been doubtful, I'm starting to shed that as I meet more people that understand this awakening, but just they bring through confirmation.
Yes.
Right? Of things that
Absolutely.
they wouldn't know, and
Absolutely.
so it's a nice support that, you know, even in those moments when you're going through a difficult time,
Absolutely.
to know that, you know, there's so much more and good things are coming. And
Absolutely. And I always say to people, and I don't know where I read it or said it, because I'm sure it's not my original thought, but what is meant for you is not going to pass you by.
That's right.
Because we're so hung up on outcome and this and that. And once you drop that and just accept the fact that you're exactly where you're meant to be, the world changes. The anxiety just drops, and you can just see more clearly. And when I started mediumship on a, you know, more academic way, is this real? Am I making it up? And every medium, I think, goes through that.
Yeah.
Am I just making this up?
yeah.
And even still, when I do readings for people, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, although I know that this is, because people say to me, how do you get your information? Like, how does it come to you? And often I don't hear voices like I just get information. It's almost like it's downloaded. And it's not my stuff. It's just not my stuff. And that's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
I'll get physical symptoms, and it's not my stuff.
And you know, it's funny that you say that, because before you were saying you like to be alone. And it was probably because you didn't recognize you were getting stuff, and I think that's all empaths. Until they become conscious, they don't recognize that all this overload of information is not theirs, and just to learn how to work with that energy.
Absolutely.
Right?
And
how do you do that? Like, you know, because
progress.
right, we're still picking stuff up.
Do you find that because of your sensitivity, I know we've talked about it, in the past, you might not have known why you'd have a sudden anxiety attack or a sudden emotion come on? Like, could you explain? Like, I've had that too, and in the past, I've finally discovered why, because we're sensitive, and other people's things sometimes attach to us. Maybe you can
100% until you learn to close that down and say, you know what, these are not my monkeys. These are yours, and I can feel for you, but I can't take that on.
Yes.
Because I think as empaths, we want to help the world, cure it. But the first thing we have to do is take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So until you learn to take care of yourself and your own inner world, you're never going to help everybody else.
And we tend to get more sick sometimes because of it.
Absolutely.
We burn out faster.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we do take on other people's burdens. We carry it for them.
Absolutely. And it's like, well, now they're doing fine and I'm sitting here in tears. What just happened?
And exhausted sometimes, out of exhaustion, you know?
Yeah.
So we have to, I think, and I'm still learning this. I think this is where I'm at, is setting boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah.
Learning my limits. People are like, oh, well, here. You know what? I'm here right now. I'd love to help you, but right now I have to help myself and be okay. My kids have to be okay, and then I can try and help you. And I think, too, it's also people realizing, I don't have all the answers. Like, well, you should know that. Well, why should I know that?
And I think as a medium, you're only getting what they need at this present moment.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the work belongs to each individual. Right? This is not like, you know, snap. Like we were talking about that. It's not like always an instant thing.
No.
You know, you'll get things you need that will come in, but you got to do your work.
It's like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
You get bits and pieces from certain people, but again, you're not going to get it all because, like you said, it's in the struggle where the growth happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get the left hooks. Sometimes we get them, and we have to take them, or else there's no lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people want, of course, we want it easy. We want the answers. We want the cheat sheet. And
Pre-chewed food. I mean, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that.
Well, we're here for evolution.
Yeah.
We're here to learn.
Yeah.
I always say that this is our university.
Yeah.
Some of us just choose an advanced course.
Yeah. Yeah.
More
really
advanced
hard
course.
Yeah.
That's true.
And again, the judgment piece. You have to, you know, I think as humans we're just predisposed to judge, but we have to sort of take a step back and realize, you know what, this person is struggling on their journey. Accept them where they are. Don't let them hurt you. Yeah, set your boundaries. Don't be hurt by them.
Right.
But again, be understanding of that.
Yeah.
And that's been my sort of lesson this past year.
I think that's actually a huge thing that I think all of us need to discuss and talk about a lot is the boundaries and protecting. And you can always be loving, but we do need to have some sort of boundary so that we're always not depleted, but send light out and love out. But
we have to send it to ourselves.
We have to send it to ourselves.
We have to send it to ourselves, and we have to say, look, I have to disconnect right now. I would really like to help you with the situation, and I will, but let me just sort of get my resources up again and let me feel okay.
And
charged.
As we set our own healthy boundaries, we're also teaching people theirs as well, and how to deal with their own things, right?
In fact, I think I didn't have a concept of boundaries until I got into this journey. That's where I learned you've taken on things that don't belong to you. No wonder why you felt heavy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was not my sadness. It was somebody else's.
Yeah.
Someone's anxiety, someone's fear. But I just found for me, like in this spiritual path, that was the biggest lesson learned.
Mine too. I really
a hard left hook and a right to learn that.
And I kept making the same mistakes
over and over.
Expecting a different outcome. And I'm like, well, why does this keep happening to me? And somebody once just said, because you let it.
Yeah.
Wow. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You know, you let it. You set your own boundaries. You are the captain of your own ship.
Yeah.
You can't control other people's behavior. You can only control how you react to it.
Yes. Bingo.
And
that's where
the reaction is huge, right?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And I still have to work on it daily.
Yeah.
You know, something happens with my daughter and I just react and and it's like
that's a part of being human too, right?
Absolutely. You don't have all the answers.
Yeah. That's a part of the journey is human beings down here in our meat suits.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you know, there's so many different modalities of energy work and stuff, and you were drawn to mainly mediumship is what you do.
I do energy healing as well.
Okay.
I would say so. I mean, I do work. Interesting. Psychic and medium tend to go together, but they're two different things.
Yes.
So I do work as a psychic as well. I get thoughts, feelings, impressions about people's future. Sometimes the past. I'm not very good with past lives and whatnot, but I do get glimpses into that at times. But I do also connect with spirit. So that's what makes one a psychic medium as opposed to just a psychic. I shouldn't say just a psychic. It's a different avenue. But yeah, I do energy healing as well.
Okay.
Well, we've had I've had a great experience the one time we attended. Divine Light. It was great. So the reading was really good. It was on. I think my daughter was with me. I had my 10-year-old Sophia was with me, and
was I doing because we have to do a sort of not an exam where you do one-to-one reading, or was it just
no? It was in the group.
Oh, okay.
And you had asked if you can come to me, and
okay, good.
Yeah. And mine was your exam.
Okay.
So it was very detailed, and I think too. Like I know spirit works through what you have in your storage, in your mind, right?
Absolutely.
So they work through, and I think with you being a teacher, teachers have a wide array of knowledge, right? So I think as a medium, it's really important to continuously learn and build up that storehouse, you know, because then you can really, with a lot of precision and clarity, bring forth the message and really give people. Because as a medium, what essentially do you want to do for people?
Help people.
Yeah.
Help them to grow. That's the goal. I mean, if you're in it for ego, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And people will say to me, well, why don't you... No, I just... The people will find me if they need to find me. If they don't, that's fine. I'm not in it for ego, I hope. I mean, we all have ego, for sure. Nobody wants to say...
It's a part of human experience.
What a lousy reading, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, I want...
Well, it's the balance,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. I want to help, but if you got to come from a place where you want to help.
Yeah.
I think.
Place of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the highest, it's very high vibration, and you know, it may be that one thing you tell someone that unlocks all of that grief that they've been carrying.
Yes.
And you brought it over from
from spirit.
someone, from spirit.
And that is a very
that's so healing.
Emotional and sacred thing. I think it really
very
is.
Sacred.
Yeah. And I really struggled at first if I was doing a reading and somebody would cry.
Oh yeah.
That was like, because all of a sudden, boom, the door would shut and I would get nothing else. So again, being connected with others who do it, it's important because you learn, well, what do you do in this circumstance? Well, how do you handle this? And it's been essential for me because I've been able to get, oh, well, this is what happens when this happens.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. It's normal. It's normal. As much as things can be normal, it's normal.
Well, I know personally from myself, when I was searching because I had lost my parents and I had gone through a lot of loss, it was mediums that helped me because all it took was just maybe those one or two thoughts that came from an aunt or my mom or my dad. I knew only they would say it the way they would say it, and it gave me peace of mind.
Yeah.
That they're in a good place. Like it was like a healing for me to hear something. Like it was more healing than anything else.
And I think people fear it. And I think the reason it has such a bad sort of connotation and it was evil, people fear it.
Yeah.
But you're not bringing anything evil, negative, of a lower vibration. It's only the best, the good, the best, and to help.
Yeah.
That's what we even say it as a prayer. Only to help.
Yeah.
Only of the light and only to help. And if it's not meant to help, don't bring it through.
Yeah.
And I've gone to some readings and some are really accurate and it just changes you. It just changes your...
I remember being able to sleep this one night after a reading because I was just, grief stricken, but it lifted the grief. It was just like you got what you needed to hear. And it was very healing. Emotionally.
Spirit is amazing like that.
It was so amazing.
Spirit is amazing like that, and there have been a couple of readings where I know I've done that, and it's really it's wonderful to see, and I know it's happened for me, and I had one lady, she was incredible, and things she brought through with my late husband, like details nobody knew, and just like, and again, it just pushed me on my journey to be better, and I always say that I'd like more detail, more confirmation, because we can be general, no question, you can go to somebody and they're very general, it's like, okay, that applies to everybody. But it's when you get those details, it's like, whoa. Because it's almost, I equate it to a phone. You're almost in connection with the phone, and it's really profound.
Yeah.
I feel like people should know about this. This is why we have Soul Tribe Channel, because it's to heal, and we're not alone. And we are surrounded by entities, beings, I don't know, it depends on your religious background or non-religious background, but sometimes we feel like we're alone down here, but we're not.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like we can look at life, it's a double-edged sword. And you can either choose to grow from it or, fall. And I find like with energy work, it's really, really helped me to, I've always been pretty good with always finding the growth in things, but it's like I really hit rock bottom a few years back.
Me too.
And I didn't have any support. I was getting these dreams and these visions of things that were going to happen to me, and thank God for that, because it led me into meeting such a lovely group of people and mediums that had helped me grow so much. But it's like they really gave me that, trust yourself. Because I was at a point where I was like, do I trust myself, and just to keep growing and coming into your empowerment,
It's not always easy. Sometimes it's easier just to shut the door and say, this isn't happening.
Yeah. There was a point where...
behave towards us is not about us. We need to have this protectiveness, a shell or something, because it's often about them and their insecurities, their fears, themselves.
They've been triggered. They've been triggered on an emotional level, and when they react like that, that's from them. That's coming from them. Their own pain.
Yeah.
Their own pain.
Yeah. And I find too, not everyone can be at that same level together, because it's like the yin and the yang. Right? And you really, for me, I've had this connection which helped with my awakening. And, you know, it's basically the polar opposite to you. And without that connection, I wouldn't be able to see everything. They basically mirrored all of the things I needed to work on. Right? And they were kind of holding that space for me.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy place to be in either, because they're going to have to come into their heart soon. And so, you know, to honor where we are at our current journey, like
Absolutely.
our current space on our journey, because, you know, we need those people. You know, we may not really enjoy it, but we need them to hold that space for us and to honor that too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because that's where the growth takes place.
That's where all the magic happens.
You know,
Yeah.
and people will say, "Oh, that was such a horrible experience for you," and yes, but what did you learn from it?
Yeah.
What did
Always
you
a
take,
lesson.
Yeah. What did you take from it?
Yeah.
And how has it made you better? And I think when you have the courage to be self-reflective,
Yeah.
and be honest, that's another one. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we're not honest. I'm famous for it. I like to put a certain lens on it. That's when the growth happens.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of courage
It does.
to change your world, to walk away from what you knew.
Yeah.
To look in the mirror and say, you know, wow, there's some stuff I didn't think was there.
That I have to deal
But
with.
I gotta deal with.
Yeah.
Well, but if we turn around and pretend, or we drink it away, or we shut it down, that's where the growth is never gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes we have people come into our life to challenge or to bring that about. Sometimes we do have maybe partners or people that will bring out the stuff that we need to look at.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at it as a blessing eventually. If you can overcome yourself,
Yeah.
you've actually overcome everything.
And I guess that's where that double-edged sword comes in, right? How are we gonna reflect on this situation, and you know?
How are you going to look beyond what your physical circumstances and say, well, how's this going to change me in the future? Because really, can you do anything about your past?
No.
I mean, there are moments and times I'd love to have back. I wish I'd handled it a different way. I wish I'd, definitely. But you can't change that. You can deal with right now, and you can deal with your future self.
Yep.
And those, if you learn from it, that's great. If you find you're repeating the same cycles over and over, you need to go back and say, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
Well, patterns, right? Patterns teach us something. Like, if I'm in a pattern, I hope you recognize that. And you need to see.
And sometimes we don't recognize
we're not aware yet.
You know?
Sometimes it's just lack of self-awareness, and everybody goes through that too. And then until it punches you in the face sometimes.
And you have no choice but to
and
do
you're like,
it.
okay, you need to really be aware, and that's where the left hook happens. So maybe you needed that to really get it. Like, oh.
And that's, you know, as you start to become more aware of you're in charge of creating your story, that's where energy work can really help you, because in the beginning you might not know what needs to be done or how to break out of these things, right? So if you get, if you find someone that can help you work with your energy until you can do it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives you a starting place.
It's a starting
place. It gives
place.
you, I'm a big believer in affirmations, and often when I do a reading for somebody, it's not just bringing through a loved one. I will get impressions, thoughts, or affirmations that are helpful for them. Where are they in their life right now? Where is the block? Where do they need to move forward? And I'll come through, and I'll often I do something called automatic writing as well, and that's the process by where you're scribbling things and it just comes to you, and it's coming from the higher self and it's coming from spirit. And often I'll get things like crystals that would be helpful, or a book that would be helpful. Yeah. And people take it, and so, I said, if it means something to you, great. Yeah. If it doesn't, let it go. Yeah. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's not meant for you. Yeah. But I can only give what I get. Yeah. And some people may be ready, and some people may think I'm insane. Yeah. But that's okay. Yeah. I've learned to let that go. Yeah.
Well, what they think is not our business.
No,
exactly.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's hard. We want to be liked.
When you can reach the people that want it, you're making a world of a difference.
Yes.
Right?
Well, when I have people come back to me, like you both have come back to me, that's great. It makes it, okay, well,
to keep going and
It's confirmation.
doing what
It
you're
is
doing.
confirmation.
It is confirmation always. Yeah.
It is. And I've had readings too where I'm reading for somebody and they're like, nope, nope, nope. And then eventually I'll keep coming around to the same subject. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
And they'll block themselves because they don't want it to. They're not ready for the possibility that
Sometimes
we
we
are connected.
resist what we don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But what we resist persists.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It just keeps
Coming around,
Yeah.
And I say that to people too during the beginning of my reading. If this resonates with you, great.
Yeah.
If you want to just let it go, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I don't have to be right.
Yeah. And sometimes it's something they don't really recognize
until a month later even. I find with some readings, it's like a month later, you're like, that's what they meant.
Yeah.
So that's what they meant.
Yeah.
You really get it. It
Like-
takes some time for it to land on you.
Yeah.
So it's not always right away.
Yes. And I say
Sometimes
that to
it could be their frame of mind, and then maybe weeks go by, and then it'll be a Sunday afternoon, and that's what she meant by that.
Yeah.
And I say
Like
that
it just hits you.
Yeah, I say that to people.
I've had that.
Sometimes it's about timing, so
Yeah.
just put it in the back of your mind, and that's why sometimes I write it down
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know, just let it go. If it doesn't resonate for you right now, it may in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about that is I've had a reading where that's happened, and it didn't really make sense, but he's like, just hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through, there was the one part on my journey where that information that he gave me, thank goodness I had it, because it was another bump in the road.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank goodness, because
Yeah.
it's all right. You're on the right path, just keep going.
Yeah.
So it was one of those moments. So
Yeah.
if you're getting something, there's a reason for
Yeah.
it. And
It might, like, in my case, it was actually 2 years later even after. So just know that sooner or later, it's, in the, it's there. That information is there, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful. I think we're doing wonderful work. I think you're a blessing to
Yeah,
people.
I love the work
You're
you
part
do.
of healing. That's a part of healing.
It's so important.
Is
Yeah.
bringing forth message to
That's
people.
my goal, and the reason is because I've had it during a difficult period where I had lost my husband, and people came across my path, and somebody said, you have to go see this person, and I did, and it was just absolutely incredible. I watched my mother-in-law, who struggled with the death of her only son, and she did not believe in this whatsoever. I can tell you that. Came from a very traditional Jewish background, just didn't believe in this. And she went to a bereavement group, and somebody said, you have to go see this lady.
Wow.
And sure enough, she did. And after, the door was opened. You can't
She
deny
experienced
it.
healing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's
Absolutely.
what I like,
Yeah.
is that it's the healing that comes from it.
And you don't need a medium to do that.
No.
You really don't.
Anybody doing energy work, to me, that's
Yeah.
all energy work.
It's what
Absolutely.
resonates with you, right?
Because for people like your mother-in-law, it had to come from a different person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it found her,
It
didn't
found
it?
her.
It
And
found her.
She was open to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't imagine losing a child. And
No.
she needed that. It's not for everybody.
No.
But she needed that, and she was open to it, and it was transformative. She said the things that came through. I mean, names, dates, places, people, uncanny, unreal, but it is real.
Yeah.
And we all have it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all have it. It's not like some magical gift that we all have it. Some of us just aren't open to it yet.
Yeah, it can be blocked by fear, right?
Fear.
That's
It's always
the
fear.
main blockage.
When you see somebody acting distractedly,
Yeah.
it's not anger.
Yeah.
That's fear.
Yeah.
And it's learning to work around that.
Yeah. And some people are very rooted in fear that, there's a lot of work you need to do before you get your vibration to that certain level to connect,
Oh, 100%.
and that's why energy work is so important, right?
And it's ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not like one and done.
Yeah,
One little thing and I'm done, I'm
Yeah.
good, I'm fine. It's
For
all
life.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's constant and it's all the time. Like, I go see people. I get healings.
Yeah.
I have people that I work with. We work together.
And are you continuing courses even?
Oh, I'm still, I'm still in
Yeah,
a mediumship
there you go.
course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. you never stop. You're never done.
Yeah. Do you find that it's changed your life in any way? You know, what makes you want to keep going forward and keep learning about it and, you know, the healing and...
Because I do believe it's part of my life path. I do believe it's part of the reason I'm here on the planet. I want to help. Absolutely. It's part of my life purpose.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's a responsibility. It's an obligation. And I want to get better and better. And that takes time and practice and study.
Yeah.
You don't just wake up one day and, you know, I still will think, because I've had other, people in the course and they send people to me or, oh, she's good, you should go see. And that's a great compliment from an ego base. That's a great compliment. But I still feel like, oh, I need to be better. I'm not ready yet. I shouldn't be out. I need to be better. You know?
Yeah.
And I'll take away a reading. I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't say that right, or maybe.
But you're constantly learning from it and growing from it, and that's very rewarding in itself, right?
It is.
And I think too, like, you know, anyone can do this, and you know, as you learn, you're also learning how, when you get messages, how to translate them, right? Because that's a huge thing.
Absolutely.
You know, you could get a message and it might come through and it might seem a little bit overwhelming, but it's not really as complicated as it's looking.
Yeah.
Right? So it's, when you do all these workshops and courses, you're learning how to work with what you're getting.
Yeah, and,
right?
and don't try and change it. Don't try to make it fit. If it doesn't resonate with you, it might resonate with you later. Give what you get. You know, that's what I was taught. Give what you get, and it's a very good advice. And it might not make sense to you. Like, I've had some ridiculous images come to my head. I was in a course one time, and we were opening up to mediumship or to psychic development. And you want me to tell her to stop? Sure. Okay. Opening up to psychic development, and all of a sudden I got this image of this beautiful peacock. Where is that coming from? And so then I had to turn to my neighbor and do a reading. So I said to her, you know what, I don't know why, but I'm getting this beautiful image of a peacock. She goes, oh, my last name is Peacock. So those are one of those moments in life where you're like, well, that's just confirmation, right?
Yeah.
You know, you doubt yourself, but if this happened,
And do you find as you work with different courses and stuff, things come through more clearly for you?
yes, but sometimes it happens differently. Like, it's not the way I'm used to. So again, you have to almost re-climatize yourself. Like, recently I started hearing more auditory. Like, there's different ways you pick up psychic information. And recently I've gotten more auditory things. And whoa, wait a second. And you have to sort of like readjust and find your comfort level with that. So again, as you learn, doors open.
Yeah.
And again, you have to fight that fear again. And trust that this is what's meant to happen.
But that's evolving. That's the process.
It is.
Yeah.
It is for sure.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, you don't want to be opened up all at once.
It can be.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right? So it slowly comes in the more you study and, you know, work on it. So
Those people that are open all the time are the ones that you find are exhausted or struggle with this or struggle with that, because they walk around just open. They feel everything. And if you walk through this earth and feel everything, well, that's...
Yeah, you gotta pull that in.
You do. You do. Yeah. And I mean, there are times where I avoid news and this and that, because I just, you know what? I got enough with what I have right here. And when I feel strong enough, maybe I'll look at a newspaper.
yeah. So a lot of the people that watch Soul Tribe channel, they're starting to awaken. What would you suggest that they could do to maybe ground and close up their energy a little bit? Because it can be overwhelming when you're first, and you want to have a little bit more maybe control over it.
First of all, learn to meditate.
Yep.
That's number one, because until you can control, or until you can have that safe space within yourself and you can connect to divine. Learn about the chakras, learn about closing the chakras, learn about energy, and know yourself. Know when something doesn't feel right, that's a sign that it's not right.
Yeah.
And you need to, we talk ourselves out of things so much.
Yes.
And so when you're feeling overwhelmed, don't push through that. Learn what helps you feel better, and then do it. Honor your feelings.
Yeah.
You know, don't, oh, I'm being silly. Oh, that's ridiculous. This person really, you need to honor your own feelings, respect them, and figure out how to make yourself feel more safe, more comfortable, and more at peace. A great thing too is, and maybe not right now in the colder weather, but take your shoes off.
Yes.
And go stand in the grass.
Go outside in the environment.
100%.
Yeah.
Take some deep breaths.
Yeah.
Deep breaths. And know that the moment will pass. This anxiety, this horrible situation, this fear, it's not going to be like this forever.
Yeah.
You know? So learn to let it go. I think for me that was really a big one. I can't worry about it. Because I think too, when you're empathetic to people, you tend to be a bit of a warrior. Like you said, you take on their stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to let the worry go. And that's not easy. That's not easy. For sure.
Do you have anything else that you want to add?
I think that's important. I think you're talking about self-love, taking yourself outside, go for a walk, get out in nature.
Find other people.
Find other people.
Yeah,
which sometimes they find you, which is amazing. That's what starts to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're new to the journey, it feels very chaotic sometimes because it depends. For some people, it comes from trauma and then they're awakening, but it's just self-love, and a lot of that is taking care of yourself and your needs. And sometimes if you need quiet and not to be around lots of people, guess what? You can say no to an event. Learning the word no might be a good idea. It's a tiny word, but it's a big word. And that's all about boundaries as well. Saying no, I can't attend this, or I can't attend that. If you're tired, you're tired. Like you said, honor those feelings.
100%.
That's self-love and taking care of yourself. The very, very important when you're on this journey.
100%. Be around people that bring you up.
Yeah. And you got to have your own back. You really do. And that's a part of it.
Absolutely.
So, I think we had a great chat with you today. And Mitzi came in just in time. And
that's another thing, get an animal.
Yes, animals are amazing for energy.
Absolutely.
They feel energy.
Yeah.
And they're healers. They're little healers.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for joining us on Soul Tribe channel. Please like and subscribe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh. She does all the other magical
Oh,
stuff.
good. The editing, yeah. Because I'm thinking, oh dear. There's so
Sometimes
much
the
noise.
bloopers